Today on the Daily Scoop podcast from the Scoop News Group, OPM retroactively changes guidance to tell agencies that it's not directing the firings of probationary employees. And Congress eyes a bigger cyber role for NTIA amid ongoing telecom attacks. It's Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Welcome to the Daily Scoop podcast, where you'll hear the latest news and trends facing government leaders. I'm the host of the Daily Scoop podcast, Billy Mitchell. Thanks so much for joining me. Let's dive into the day's top headlines. The Office of Personnel Management said Tuesday in a revision of existing guidance that it's not instructing other federal agencies to take personnel actions with respect to probationary employees. The new language in the revised memo reads, quote, "Please note that by this memorandum, OPM is not directing agencies to take any specific performance-based actions regarding probationary employees. Agencies have ultimate decision-making authority over and responsibility for such personnel actions." The update follows the decision last week from a federal judge in San Francisco granting temporary limited relief to pause and rescind those firings at several agencies. In making that ruling, U.S. District Judge William Alsup found that OPM's original January 20th memo on federal probationary workers and its other related efforts likely unlawfully directed the firing of those agency workers. OPM, quote, "does not have any authority whatsoever under any statute in the history of the universe to hire and fire employees within another agency," Alsup said during a hearing on February 27th. Alsup's decision came just before the Department of Defense, which was among the named agencies in the ruling, planned to cut thousands of its probationary workers, and after other named agencies like the Department of Veterans Affairs already terminated probationary staff. Those efforts have been part of the Trump administration's broader efforts to reduce the size of the federal workforce. Since the decision, at least one agency has moved to reinstate its fired federal probationary workers. The National Science Foundation on Monday cited the federal courts and updated OPM guidance in its announcement that it planned to reinstate fired probationers, despite the science agency ultimately being excluded from the court's order. In other news, as Salt Typhoon and other hacking groups continue targeting U.S. telecommunications networks, a bipartisan bill that cleared a key House panel Tuesday aims to formalize a more cyber-focused role for the federal agency focused on those wireless networks. The National Telecommunications and Information Administration Organization Act would establish an Office of Policy Development and Cybersecurity within the Commerce Department's NTIA under legislation from Representatives J. Obernolte of California and Jennifer McClellan of Virginia. The bill, which advanced out of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, was passed by the chamber last year but stalled out in the Senate. The NTIA advises the president on telecommunications and information policy issues with a specific focus on the expansion of broadband internet and spectrum. Obernolte, who chairs the House Science, Space, and Technology Subcommittee on Research and Technology, said the bill, quote, addresses a critical gap by formalizing NTIA's cybersecurity role to better safeguard the communications networks of the United States. While discussing the bill with the committee, Obernolte said that the Office of Policy Development and Cybersecurity would work with stakeholders to develop and implement cybersecurity and privacy policies for the Internet and communications networks and promote collaboration between industry and security researchers to address vulnerabilities before they can be exploited. The hope is it would prevent and mitigate future software vulnerabilities that could compromise telecommunications infrastructure, in part by providing technical assistance to small and rural communication service providers. For more news at the intersection of the federal government and technology, make sure to visit fedscoop.com. The Daily Scoop podcast is available on all podcast platforms. If you've already rated the podcast on your platform of choice, thanks so much. High ratings and good reviews of the show help more people find it. The Daily Scoop podcast is a production of the Scoop News Group in Washington, D.C. Adam Butler and Carlin Fisher help put the show together, and the entire Scoop News Group team contributes. We'll be back next week with brand new episodes. Until then, I'm your host, Billy Mitchell. Thanks so much for listening.